Rain lashed the penthouse windows like shards of glass, thunder muffling Ava Monroe's shallow breaths as she lay sprawled across the marble floor. The world's most feared businesswoman, the one who could dismantle empires with a phone call, now looked small, fragile, and human. Blood pooled beneath her ankle, staining the white stone crimson. Her ex-husband Colin loomed above her, his once handsome face twisted by rage and possession. "You thought you could walk away from me, Ava? You can't even walk." His voice was a blade, controlled, cold, and final. Then, the echo of his shoes faded into silence. Ava's trembling fingers clawed weakly at the floor as the elevator doors sealed behind him. The faint hum of machinery swallowed the sound of her broken sobs. The penthouse, usually glowing with city lights, felt suffocating, like a glass coffin. Every flicker of thunderlight revealed her reflection on the window. Disheveled hair, blood-smeared skin, eyes wide with terror and disbelief. The empire she built couldn't protect her from the one man she once trusted most. She tried to crawl toward her phone, but her strength gave out halfway, her breath catching in her throat. Then a soft knock. "Ma'am? You left your car lights on." The voice was gentle, steady, and human, so painfully normal against the chaos. Ava froze. Through the slightly ajar door stood Ethan Cole, a security guard still wearing his rain-drenched jacket, holding an umbrella and a diner bag. His concern flickered instantly into alarm as he took in the scene, her bruised ankle, the scattered glass, the faint blood trail. Their eyes met, hers pleading for safety she couldn't ask for, his filled with quiet resolve. In that moment, neither knew it, but this stranger's compassion had just stepped into the heart of her nightmare. Ava Monroe had once been the golden face of innovation, a woman who turned a small garage startup into a billion-dollar tech empire before she turned 30. To the world, she was untouchable, polished, brilliant, and relentlessly in control. But beneath the tailored suits and camera flashes, Ava lived in a private hell carved by her ex-husband, Colin Hart. What began as passion turned to manipulation, then quiet domination masked by charm. Even after their divorce, his shadow lingered, through a cruel legal clause ensuring he could destroy her if she ever appeared unfit. Every bruise, every secret panic attack, she buried beneath power and perfection. Ethan Cole lived in a simpler world, though no less heavy. 3 years ago, a drunk driver stole his wife and left him with their daughter, Lila, and a grief that never quite loosened its grip. He worked tirelessly, fixing engines by day and guarding empty hallways by night, chasing stability more than dreams. He didn't believe in second chances, not for love, not for himself. His life was built on quiet endurance, the kind where each day was a small act of survival for Lila's sake. He had no idea that one stormy night would drag him into someone else's shattered world and give him purpose again. After the penthouse incident, Ava's fear of scandal forced her into secrecy. Hospitals meant questions, headlines, weakness, things she couldn't afford. So when Ethan, the man who found her that night, offered quiet help without judgment, she made a decision. She hired him as her part-time driver and bodyguard, claiming it was for security reasons, though her real reason was trust, something she hadn't felt in years. Slowly, through gentle humor, shared silences, and the way he looked at her without expectation, Ethan became her safe space. Yet Ava's walls stayed high. Her injuries, both physical and emotional, hidden behind silk sleeves and perfectly timed smiles. The storm Ava thought she'd escaped came roaring back in the form of a boardroom betrayal. Colin, ever the strategist, had found a new way to own her, not through love, but through power. A doctored video leaked online showed Ava slumping in a meeting, her exhaustion twisted into a portrait of instability. The media feasted, investors panicked, and her board demanded a psychological evaluation to protect the company. Ava knew exactly who was behind it. The man who once held her heart now wanted her legacy. And worse, his plan was working. Her empire was turning against her. Days later, in the dim light of the underground parking garage, The mask of civility finally cracked. Colin appeared beside her car, his voice dripping with false tenderness as he grabbed her wrist, leaving faint bruises over old ones. "You're spiraling, Ava. Let me help you before it's too late," he hissed. Ethan, waiting nearby, saw the fear flicker in her eyes, a silent plea. He didn't hesitate. One warning turned into a shove into a scuffle. Security cameras caught the chaos, and by morning, Ethan was fired for unprofessional behavior. Colin left smirking, his plan deepening its claws. Ava's guilt gnawed at her. Ethan had lost his job defending her, something no one had ever done without an agenda. So she made a choice that defied reason and her board's threats. She hired him as her personal driver and protector. That night, as rain blurred the city lights through the windshield, the weight of her facade broke. "Everyone sees me as untouchable," she whispered, voice cracking. "But I can't even walk without pain." Ethan glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror. His tone steady, almost a vow. "Then let me stand beside you until you can." For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Ava's body was healing, but the bruises beneath her skin ran deeper than any doctor could see. She returned to work, forcing calm into every movement, but whispers trailed her like shadows. News outlets dissected her every expression, every stumble, painting her as unstable and unfit to lead. Colin fed the fire masterfully, showing concern in interviews, pretending to be the worried ex-husband desperate to help. Behind that polished mask, he sent her venomous messages that chilled her blood. "You belong to me, Ava. You always will." Her board wavered. Her confidence cracked. And her empire, once unshakable, began to tremble. Ethan noticed what others didn't: the sleepless nights, the flicker of fear every time her phone buzzed. One evening, while fixing a loose vent in her penthouse, he found the truth. Hidden microphones wired into the walls, all feeding somewhere unseen. Colin hadn't just been tormenting her, he'd been watching her every move. When Ava learned this, the walls seemed to close in, her breath shattering into panic. Ethan didn't hesitate. He packed a small bag, guided her trembling form out the service exit, and drove her to his home, a quiet, worn-down place filled with warmth, laughter, and safety. In Ethan's world, Ava discovered something she'd forgotten existed: peace. Lila's giggles echoed through the small kitchen as burnt pancakes filled the air with the smell of real life. Dinners were simple but honest, and no one expected perfection from her. It was here, among the chipped mugs and gentle chaos, that Ava began to remember who she was before fear ruled her. Yet as love began to bloom, danger followed. Colin's reach tightened, tracking her, twisting the narrative, filing a lawsuit accusing Ethan of kidnapping. The message was clear. If Ava wanted freedom, she'd have to fight for it, and this time, she couldn't hide. The press conference was meant to be Ava's redemption, a sleek unveiling of Monroe Tech's new partnership. Her chance to silence the rumors and reclaim her throne. Cameras lined the stage, flashes igniting like wildfire as she stepped up to the microphone, poised and polished. But just as she began to speak, the crowd rippled with commotion. Colin emerged from the aisle, feigning concern, his voice dripping with performative charm. "She needs help," he told the audience, hand raised in mock sorrow. "She's unstable. She's being manipulated by one of her employees." The room gasped. Reporters leaned forward. Ava froze. For a moment, silence stretched, the kind that could end careers or rewrite them. Then Ava lifted her chin. Her voice, steady yet raw, cut through the tension. "You want the truth?" she said, eyes locked on the cameras. "I was abused, manipulated, controlled, and for years I stayed silent because I thought power meant pretending. But power is choosing to stand, even when you can barely walk." Gasps rippled through the hall. She wasn't hiding anymore. She turned toward Ethan and Lila at the edge of the stage, her quiet courage reflected in their eyes. Colin's smirk faltered. Rage overtook performance. "You ungrateful! I built you!" he shouted, forgetting the cameras still rolled. "Everything you have exists because I let you have it." The audience recoiled. Every word was captured, broadcast live to millions. Security moved fast, restraining him as his carefully crafted image shattered in seconds. The crowd erupted, half in shock, half in applause. Ava stood trembling, every breath a release of years of fear. As she stumbled off stage, her body gave out from the weight of it all. And Ethan was there, catching her before she hit the floor, holding her in the quiet aftermath of victory. Weeks later, the courtroom became Ava's final battlefield, not of power, but of truth. Calm and unflinching, she faced Colin across the aisle as years of evidence came to light. Secret recordings, falsified accounts, the invasive surveillance in her penthouse. Every lie he had crafted unraveled under the weight of her courage. Her voice didn't shake as she recounted the years of manipulation, the bruises behind her brilliance, the fear masked by control. When the verdict was read, guilty of fraud, coercion, and harassment, Ava finally breathed without restraint. She hadn't just won her company back, she had reclaimed herself. In the months that followed, Monroe Tech transformed under her new leadership. Gone was the cold corporate machine. In its place rose an empire with empathy at its core. Ava launched wellness initiatives for women executives, therapy programs, mentorship circles, recovery leave for trauma survivors. Her story inspired countless others to speak out. For once, headlines didn't call her ruthless, they called her resilient. Meanwhile, Ethan quietly rebuilt his own dream. With Ava's support, he opened a small garage in the city, naming it Lila's Workshop, where laughter, music, and the smell of oil filled the air again. Their relationship blossomed slowly, built not on rescue but on respect. Ava's cane gathered dust as she learned to walk unaided, each step symbolizing the distance she'd traveled from fear. One golden afternoon, she and Ethan stood outside his garage, sunlight catching the faint scar on her ankle. He reached for her hand as she took another step forward, steady, deliberate. "You did it," he whispered, pride thick in his voice. Ava smiled, eyes soft with gratitude and love. "No," she said, leaning gently against him. "We did." And for the first time, she truly believed it. The auditorium glowed beneath soft golden lights as Ava stepped onto the stage, dressed in quiet confidence rather than armor. The large screen behind her read, "Power isn't control, it's courage." Her voice carried steady through the hall, raw yet poised as she spoke about survival, about the myth of perfection, and the strength in vulnerability. Each word came from lived truth, from marble floors and midnight fears to courtrooms and second chances. The audience listened, not to a CEO or a victim, but to a woman reborn. When she finished, a standing ovation rose like a wave of light. As the applause settled, Ava's gaze drifted to the crowd, and there they were. Ethan and Lila sat in the third row, both smiling as if they'd been waiting for this moment all along. Lila waved with both hands, her excitement uncontained, while Ethan simply mouthed the words, "Proud of you." For a heartbeat, the noise faded. Ava's chest tightened, not from fear but from gratitude. That simple gesture, pride, not pity, was everything she had fought for. A life defined not by control, but by choice, by quiet, unconditional love. A slow smile spread across her face, unguarded and true, the kind that reached her eyes, softening years of pain. The lights dimmed, the applause echoed, and her voice lingered over the final montage of her journey. "Once I begged not to be hurt. Now I walk on my own, not because I forgot the pain, but because I finally forgave myself for staying silent." As her words faded, the screen went dark. The camera lingered on her reflection, a woman standing tall, not untouched by the storm, but finally, beautifully free.